Welcome to Rauta's Indie 5. This time it's 5 different releases of older sorts. That is, some of these are already quite a few years old, and even the newest ones are as old as 2019 releases. So these are old ones which have here been for a while, or were old ones to begin with. Now, usually Indie 5 features more styles than one, but this time, it's kind of safe to say we're operating in the field of black metal, so it's a black metal special, if you will. Once again, going through alphabetical order, won't waste much time with each of the releases here. 6 bands, 5 releases. Let's do it. First, we go to the United States with a band called Abaza Garath. This is actually one of those names which have been in the underground for quite some time. I mean, the band is around from 1995 and only 3 albums out. Gotta say, haven't really heard about Abazagorath before I got this for review a couple of years ago. This one is the Satanic Verses and features around 50 minutes of black metal of melodic kind. One could say this is very much like 1990s doing a comeback here. Not that it ever went away with so-called second wave of black metal. The style is fast tempo, melodic, yet somewhat rawish. One could say this is a kind of American version of what Dark Funeral is doing. Not so polished and honed, but more on the rawer end of that style. That is, however, melodic, fast tempo, fierce and grim. Now, there is more versatility than with Dark Funeral one, and maybe some of the songs are then again not as catchy. And overall, I was almost like saying this is a little bit lukewarmish experience, but the further I went into it, the more spins I gave it. I gotta say, this is actually quite decent. Now, that is not the most memorable or the most classic kind of a great black metal release out there, but there is something that really, really clicks, so to say. The overall feeling and having this kind of a grim output or atmosphere with those catchy melodies actually works. It's just like more than 50 minutes of that given style is maybe just a little bit too much, but definitely worth a go. Then we have this band called Adaestuo, which is then again a international lineup. This is a kind of interesting and hard to get into because the nature of this band is actually a sort of an international side project featuring black metal and ambience. Now, when I say international, I mean there's VJS from America, known for quite a few bands such as Nightbringer. Then there is Perttu, who used to be in Horna and Sawgeist, among other bands, Vitsaus currently. And then we have this female vocalist who never can remember her name, Herthe Zagen, known for her rather unusual style of music and currently located, if I'm mistaken, in Poland. So this is a very, very interesting international lineup. Now, the thing here is, this is very kind of a mystic kind of a black metal. That is, it's almost like ritualistic at one point, having ambient parts and ritualistic parts, and at the same time it features also kind of a catchy melodic black metal. Now, this is not the kind of a mainstream stuff that you go really shouting about, like, yeah, bang your fist and all that stuff. So forget all your Satyricons and Nimoborgers and whatever, and focus on the more, say, edgier style of black metal. Not political edgier, but, diving deep into the occult and unforeseen secrets. Quite an interesting release, but because of those ambient parts, this is a little bit kind of a hard to swallow kind of a bill. I like it, but it could be a lot better if it was more focused. But then again, I really think the nature of this beast is not to be very easy to approach. So definitely an interesting but kind of a hard cookie to crack. But Adaestuo is definitely worth checking out in case you want something different from your black metal. A little bit different comes from a band known as Ascension. This one is from Germany, and this one is actually a 2009 demo, which was released later on as a CD. So at first I was thinking like, okay, I'm listening to this kind of a full album because, I mean, the packaging looks nice. It's definitely more music than just a demo. I mean, this is very, very much like a full album kind of a release. But looking into it, it was to be found out that this is an actual demo just released in a basically full album version. And that is kind of an important thing to mention because it feels like this is a little bit raw, not so honed, not so finished version of what this band could be. Now the thing here is, this is a band with kind of a lengthy songwriting and definitely hard cookie to crack in that sense. I mean, there are a bunch of riffs that just seem to go from one place to another, but not the kind of a structure that you're used to with metal music and rock music all in general. So it seems like this is from composers to composers kind of a black metal, almost like progressive, but not exactly what some people think when we're talking about progressive metal and progressive rock. Not exactly that far, but kind of in between of those extremities. Not exactly extreme in the sense what black metal usually is, with very fierce and grim riffs and all that stuff. So kind of a more on the atmospheric side, but also a little bit progressing with lots of, riffs and ideas like, hey, we need to have 112th riff here so we can push this song beyond 12 minutes or so. I'm exaggerating, but not too much really. So this is kind of interesting because in terms of individual riffs here and there and the atmosphere, pretty good. But then again, these lengthy songs make it more like hard to grasp on, if you know what I mean. So I don't know to which kind of people to recommend this one. It's interesting, but I also find it kind of difficult to like fully. So definitely decent. And now I must say, because all of these three are albums which I would say 7 out of 10, I always keep asking myself, and this is something that I wrote with one of these reviews, is like, why there is this kind of album even worth 7 out of 10? It's almost good, but not really. But then again, it's more than lukewarm. And some people have been bitching me throughout the years like, man, you always give these 7 out of 10s, like, why can't you blah, blah, blah. And the thing is, yeah, I wish these albums were actually good. I want to praise them like, yeah, this is 8 out of 10, maybe even closer to 9. But they're not that. Then again, they are beyond mediocrity, which kind of puts me in a hard position. I kind of want to say, yes, check them out. And then at the same time, I feel that would be not exactly fully honest. So hard albums to get into, but there's definitely a lot of promise with all of these. Then we have a split from a Greek band called Devathorn this way, and Inferno, a band from Czech Republic. And this is a 4 songs release. One could say it's almost sounds like an MCD, but it's more than 30 minutes of music. So quite lengthy tracks, 2 tracks from both bands. Now this once again is a band split which holds a lot of potential. The thing here is, it's almost good, and actually it's not. Now the thing here is with Devathorn, the first track is kind of combining elements with, a little bit of death metal, but it's mostly just black metal. Reminding me a little bit of Behemoth, but just not as good, as catchy and all that stuff. And the second track is more like a ritualistic sort, which is then again not really fully metal at all. So it is almost like the band is going to, okay, now we got this album going on, and it just ends way before it really happens. There is definitely some Greek feeling in line with that Behemoth-like appearance, but then it just stops. And then when Inferno starts, well, it doesn't really click that well. It's kind of like a weak-sounding, little bit progressive, atmospheric black metal with melodic parts, way too lengthy songwriting, which is quite literally a letdown, and I mean a disappointment. Probably almost like mediocrity. Not totally bad, but like, man, this band from 1996 could have done so much better. It's definitely a split for collectors only, not so much else. And the last but not least is this band called Krater from Germany. There are plenty of bands with the same name, in fact, but this is the only ones I could find which is black metal one, and this is their 4th album called Venanre. This comes with a nice slipcase digipack release, was released in 2019, so the newest one of them all. Already, it seems, damaged goods here. And this one is something that I could call modern black metal. One could say it's a little bit post-blackish, It's also something that could be described as third wave of black metal. Now, this would have been sounding unique, or at least somewhat original and not so often heard of, if not for the past few years. This kind of style wouldn't be coming out through doors and windows. I mean, there are plenty of bands that seem to push the boundaries beyond the kind of a typical second wave black metal, which then again has been here since like 1990s. And I mean, I can't really bitch about bands going into different territories and pushing the boundaries or pushing the envelope. But the thing here, what doesn't really click with this band is like, it's almost like they can't figure out which way to go. Do they really want to sound like post-black? Okay, if you do, just go ahead in that style. Do you really want to go third wave black metal and all that stuff? Okay, go that way. Or are you supposed to sound like some kind of atmospheric black metal with just some random faster, more melodic, catchier parts? Now, this is a band that tries to, get all of them, like a Pokemon thing, like collect them all into under one umbrella or roof or whatever. And it kind of fails. It's a little bit of everything, but not exactly anything. So definitely more modern black metal, but not for everybody. Vocals, for example, is like combining at some points growling and raspier parts, and it really doesn't sound very good in my opinion. So the idea of dual vocals might sound interesting, but if you really can't handle them well, it's not gonna fly. So theoretically speaking, interesting, much like the album 10 years ago, Nocebo, but not exactly worthy a cigar. Quite okay, but not better than that. So, if I, once again, was supposed to pick the best album of this pile, if I only could recommend one of these 5, I would say go to the United States with Abaza Garath. Might be the most horrible name of these all, but it's probably the best of this pile, unless you want to really go to more progressive or atmospheric and experimental fields, in which case you would go with Adaestuo or Ascension. So, no clear winner in the terms of one great album and the rest being something else, and nothing totally horrible, just pretty much decent stuff, from mediocrity to rather okay, and that's it. You will find links provided in the description box. I hope you liked some of them, and if you don't, well, too bad. Take care, bye bye, see you soon.